Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Dina Akasha, and I am back to my educational videos. And today, inshallah, we are going to discuss together how do we solve these sort of questions, or in other words, we are going to discuss how to simplify algebraic fractions, how to simplify algebraic fractions, or to be very specific, how to simplify a single fraction that looks like this. Now, to be able to simplify these sort of questions, you have to remember how to factorize. You have to remember factorize. And since this is a year 10 video, so most of you have an idea about factorization, but what I will do now is that I will remind you with all the types of factorizations that you need to know before we're able to solve such questions. So let me move on to the whiteboard and remind you with the first part of factorization, which is factorizing taking the highest common factor, factorization using the highest common factor. So let me just give you an example. If you get such a question, 24x power 3 y minus 36 x power 2 y power, for instance, y power 4. And the question says factorize. Now let me just write here the question عشان بس ما حدش يتوه مني. The question says factorize. Now first you need to understand what is meant by factorization. Factorization means that I am going to change this expression over here into a term multiplied by a bracket, into a term multiplied by a bracket. Now, whenever you're dealing with any mathematical question, always remember to start thinking about it from left to right. Now, if we look at this example over here, this example contains a numerical part, and then the letter X, and then the letter Y. My advice is work on each item individually. So let's start with the numerical part. Now, 24 and 36. What is the highest common factor of 24 and 36? Now, there is the option to find the highest common factor mentally, if you wish to do so, or if you do not know how to do it mentally, you can always use the amud or the column method. And the column method or the amud, there is a whole video about HCF and LCM. I'm going to say this super quick. Now, as we said, to find the highest common factor among these two numbers, you either do it mentally or you can use the column method or the amud. Now, write these numbers separated by a comma, as I did over here. This vertical line represents division. On the left-hand side, we write only prime numbers. And then this is how you start. Both numbers can be divided by 2. So you divide individually, 24 divided by 2 and 36 divided by 2. And then both numbers again can be still divided by 2. فما فيش أي مشكلة إن أنا أستعمل 2 تاني. 12 divided by 2, 6, 18 divided by 2, which is 9. Now, both these numbers can be divided by 3 at this stage. Divide individually. Now, when you reach to the part in which both numbers cannot be divided by the same value, you stop at this stage. So where is your highest common factor? Your highest common factor are the numbers on the left multiplied 2 times 2, 4 times 3, which is 12. And this is the first part, which is the highest common factor among the numbers. Then you move on to the letters. Now I'm going to move on to the letter X. دلوقتي بقى عايزين ناخد بالنا من حاجة إنه when you're dealing with letters and these letters have different powers, which letter do you select? You select the letter with the smaller power. So again, if you are dealing with letters and these letters have different powers, you select the letter with the smaller power. So among x power 3 and x power 2, the common factor or the highest common factor is x squared. Now moving on to the last item, which is the y. Again, since the y is common in both terms, and one of them is y1 and the other one is y to the power of 4, as I said earlier, you select the item with the smaller power. You select the item with the smaller power. طيب, what if they were both power 1? What if they were both power 1? If they were both power 1, and I'm actually going to keep it at this stage, you select the letter as it is. So again, if both letters have different powers, you select the letter with the smaller power. If both letters have the same power, you select the letter with the same power. يعني لو دي كانت مكتوبة مثلا y squared y squared, هاخدها برضو y squared. So let's keep it like this now. So أهو y1, y power 1 and y power 1. So y power 1 is the highest common factor. So this item over here is the highest common factor. Now let's move on to how do I fill in inside the bracket? How do I fill in inside the bracket? To fill in inside the bracket, you divide each term in the question by the highest common factor. You divide each term in the question by the highest common factor. So 24 divided by 12, which is 2. X power 3 divided by x power 2 is x. And then y and y, خلاص, they are cancelled. And then you move on to the second part. 36 divided by 2, which is 3. X power 2 divided x power 2 is 1. Y and y, they cancel each other, and y divided by y is equal to 1. So here goes your factorization. And if you wish to check that your answer is correct, you can also always multiply. So when you multiply, you will get the blue. And this is the first part of your factorization, which is the highest common factor. So that was the first part, which is factorization using the highest common factor. Now we're going to move on to the second part of factorization, which is factorization of dots. And I'm going to explain this and I'm going to explain what does the word dots stand for. D means difference. And since we are all math people, so we know that difference means subtraction. O means off. T means 2, S means squares. S means squares. And what I mean by squares is that if I have a letter is raised either to the power of 2 or any letter that is raised to an even power, then this is considered as a squared item. And then you have the squared numbers, which are 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. Now let's just first remember, where do I get the dots? Now, when we discussed expanding before, we discussed the expansion of these brackets, x plus 10 and x minus 10. And if you remember, we said that these brackets, oh, what happened? We said that these brackets are called almost same brackets. These brackets are called almost same brackets because, as you can see, the only difference between these two brackets is the sign. The only difference between these two brackets is the sign. So to be able to expand these brackets, what we did is that we multiplied the first and the first. So x times x is x power 2. And we multiplied second and second. So again, why are they called almost same brackets? They are called almost same brackets because I'm just going to highlight over here, because the only difference between them, as you can see, is the sign. The only difference between them is the sign. How do I multiply almost same brackets? All you need to do is multiply the first and the first. So x times x, let me just rewrite this again. So x times x is x squared, and then you multiply second and second. You multiply positive 10 and negative 10. So 10 times negative 10 is negative 100. So the result of almost same brackets is difference of two squares. Difference of two squares. Difference is this, the subtraction sign. O means of. 2 means that I have two items, as you can see. Squares, what does squares mean? It means that I can take the square root of the first and I can take the square root of the second. So this is what dots mean. So what happens is that I am given this expression and I will be required to change back into the bracket. So I want you to memorize this in your head and scan. So let me erase these and remind you of how to factorize dots. How to factorize difference of two squares. زي كده. X power 2 minus 100. So first you need to make sure that it is dots, that it is difference of two squares. So let's do the checklist. Do I have a different sign in between? Yes. If it's plus, then you cannot do it. It must be difference. Do I have two items? Yes. Are they squares? Meaning, can I take square root of the first and square root of the second? Yes, I can. So in this case, what are my factorization steps? My factorization steps are square the first, square root the first. So square root x power 2 is x and x. Square root the second. The square root of 100 is 10 and 10. And your brackets, one will be addition, the other one will be subtraction. If you wish to change the signs, يعني if you wish to write x minus 10 first and then x plus 10, then this is perfectly fine. So this is just to remind you how to factorize dots. And then we'll move on. طبعا هنعيد الكلام ده واحنا بنحل المسائل بتاعة algebraic fractions. Now the third type of factorization that you have to remember is factorization of a quadratic trinomial, And for quadratic trinomials, please make sure that you have a scientific calculator with you. Make sure that you have a scientific calculator. Now, let me remind you of what is a quadratic trinomial and from where do we get a quadratic trinomial. So let me just give you two brackets like these. For example, this is x plus 7 and this is x minus 3. And if you remember, when we labeled these brackets, we identified them as different brackets. And why did we consider them as different brackets? We consider them as different brackets because, as you can see, the numbers are totally different. Okay, so this is why we consider them as different. So now I am going to expand these two brackets. And expanding the brackets means I'm going to multiply. Now, how do I expand these two brackets? We take the first term, multiply here, multiply there. ودايما يا جماعه خلينا واحنا بنعمل المالتيبليكيشن نبقى ماشيين بالترتيب. يعني انا باخد الاولاني تايمز البراكت الثاني، يعني اهو زي ما انا عملت كده هنا هاخد ده تايمز هنا وهنا. So x times x is x power 2. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. And then I will take the second term, multiply here, multiply there. Positive 7 times x is positive 7x. Positive 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. So how do I expand these two brackets? You take the first term, multiply here and there, and then you take the second term, multiply here and there. So this is your expansion step. And then we will move on to the simplest form. طبعا, as you can see, these terms are like terms and they can be combined to one another. And why can I consider them as like terms? Because both they are raised to the power of 1. So the simplest form is going to be x power 2 plus 4x minus 21. This is the simplest form. And this is the answer of expanding both the brackets. This term over here is called a quadratic trinomial. This term over here is called a quadratic trinomial. Trinomial means is that it has three terms. trinomial means it has 3 terms. Quadratic means that the powers, as you can see, of the letter are power 2, power 1, and here there is no x, or in other words, the x is to the power of 0. A quadratic trinomial is an expression that has 3 terms, and the maximum power is 2, and the powers are descending as follows. So this is a quadratic trinomial. Okay? يبقى كان الهدف من الاكزامبل ده ان انا بس افهمكم الكوادراتيك trinomial ده بيجي منين. What are we required to do now? I am required, برضو نفس الكلام, I want you to look at this board, I want you to scan it, and I want you to memorize it كده in your head. I am required to factorize this quadratic trinomial. I am required, let me just write it by هنا over here. I am required to factorize this quadratic trinomial. X power 2 plus 4x minus 21. يعني ايه factorize it? يعني I am required to change it back into 2 brackets multiplied. I am required to change it back into 2 brackets multiplied. How do I do that? With the aid of the calculator. How do I do that? With the aid of the calculator. Please, يا جماعة, make sure that you have calculators with you. Now, on your calculators, I need you to press on the mode button. طبعا we can do it mentally. ماشي، فأنا ممكن أعمل لها بقى فيديو تاني خالص how to factorize mentally. بس إحنا دلوقتي هنعملها بالكالكوليتر. Now, press on mode. And after mode, you should get so many options. Select the EQN option, which is in some calculators labeled as option number 5 or labeled as option number 3. So press on mode, select equation, and then select equation number 3, which looks like this. ax power 2 plus bx plus c equals to 0. And I'm actually going to write it underneath, لا مش underneath, هكتبها فوقها هنا كده. اهي ax power 2 plus bx plus c. تمام؟ اوكي. طبعا equals to 0، بس احنا دلوقتي في مرحلة الاكسبريشنز فاحنا مش هنركز على equal 0 دي دلوقتي. اوكي؟ So اهو mode 5.3 or mode equation 3. Now, by comparing the blue to the pink like this, you will find that the A is the coefficient of x power 2. And what do I mean by coefficient? The number on the left-hand side of x power 2. By comparing, the B is the coefficient of x. And what do I mean by coefficient? The number on the left-hand side. The C, the number on the left-hand side of x power 1. The C is what we call the constant term. The constant term, يعني the term that doesn't have x. So again, by comparing, let me use the highlighter again. By comparing this equation that I got from the calculator, or this expression, أنا فكست الحتة بتاعت equals 0. By comparing these two together, I found that the A always and forever represents the number on the left-hand side of x power 2. ماليش دعوة بالباور، علشان في ناس كتيرة بتتلخبط بعد كده ويقول لي طب يا مس طب ما هي باور 2. لا، أنا ماليش دعوة بال2 دي. أنا كل اللي عايزاه الرقم اللي على الشمال. So the A is equal to 1. The B is the coefficient of the x, the number on the left-hand side of x, which is 4. The C is the constant value. The C is the constant value, which is the value that doesn't have an x, which is negative 21. And please remember that when you find the value of A and the B and the C, you always take them with the signs. تمام؟ يبقى احنا دلوقتي عملنا ايه؟ دلوقتي عرفنا ان احنا you have to press mode and then equation, and then you press equation number 3. And this actually appeared on your calculator. A, B, C. This exactly is what appeared on your calculator. اهو بالظبط كده. وفي هنا 0 تحت. دلوقتي, what are we going to do now? What we're going to do now is that we are going to insert these values on the calculator in the same order. يعني we are going to insert the A first, then the B, then the C. So let's do it together. So on your calculator, press on 1 and then press on equal. So you will see that the highlighted part has moved to the B. Now type 4 or press on the button 4 and then press equal again. You will find that the 4 appeared under the B. And then the last number, which is negative 21. So on your calculator, you write negative 21, press equal. You will find that it appeared under the C. Now I want you to press equal one more time. You will find that the calculator gives x1 equals to 3. طبعا هنعمل another example. And press equal again. You will find that the calculator gives x2, which is negative 7. Okay? Now, what are these numbers that appeared on the calculator? Now, please, let's just not محدش يتوه يعني محدش يتوه ازاي دي بالانجليزي. Remember that I need you to focus. The objective is to change this back into 2 brackets. Now, these numbers that appeared on the calculator, these are the numbers that you will put inside, but with the very, very small change. And what is this small change? We will inverse the sign. يعني if the number is positive, I will insert as negative. If the number is negative, I will insert as positive. So how do I put this inside the bracket? طبعا we know that x power 2 is expanded into x and x. So since this is positive 3, it changes into negative 3. And then since this is negative 7, it changes into positive 7. It changes into positive 7. طبعا in your exam, you don't have to show all of that. All you need to show are your brackets. And as we said, this can be done mentally, بس ممكن أبقى أشرحها بقى بفيديو تاني بعد كده. خلينا ناخد another example. Let's take another example on how to use the calculator to factorize quadratic trinomials. Now, let's just start with expansion of these 2 brackets. 2x plus 1 and مثلا 3x minus, for example, 4. Okay? Now, these 2 brackets are called different brackets. And how do I expand different brackets? You take the first term, multiply here, multiply there. So 2 times 3 is 6. X times x, x power 2. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. And then you take the 1, multiply here, multiply there. 1 times 3x is 3x. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. This step over here is called the expanding step. And then we need بقى the simplest form. Simplest ناقصلاتي هنا. طبعا the simplest form اللي هي combining these 2 together. So you end up with 6x power 2 minus, معلش. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5x minus 4. دي الإجابة. وقلنا الإجابة دي اسمها إيه؟ This is what we call a quadratic trinomial. Why is this called a quadratic trinomial? It's called trinomial because, as you can see, it's 3 terms. Quadratic means that the powers of the letters are power 2, power 1, and then there is no x. تمام؟ Type. The objective is to change this quadratic trinomial back into the brackets. So now what we're going to do, Q means question يا حبايبي. Q means question. فأنا what I'm going to do now, I am going to factorize 6x power 2 minus 5x minus 4. ده الobjective بتاعي. How do we factorize quadratic trinomials? Again, let's do the steps together. طبعا if you want to change the calculator back to normal, you press on mode 1. أنا أعيد من الأول خالص. So press on mode 1 and the calculator changes back into normal. Let's start بقى from the beginning. On your calculators, press mode. طبعا كل ده بقى ما بيكتبش في الامتحان، ده احنا بنشرح هنا. And then after mode, select equation, EQN. And then select equation number 3, which looks like this. And I'm going to write it underneath. AX power 2 plus BX plus C equals to 0. Now we're just going to ignore this part because we are not solving, we're just factorizing. واللي أنا عايزة أأكد عليه يا جماعة إنه مش عشان هي مكتوبة هنا كده plus يبقى ده معناها إن هي لازم تبقى positive. لا، هي standard مكتوبة plus، بس ال A وال B وال C دول يعني ممكن يكونوا positive أو negative. طيب, by comparing these two, we find that the value of A is 6, which represents the number on the left-hand side of x power 2. The B is -5, which represents the number on the left-hand side of x. And the C is -4, which represents the constant value. Now, after pressing mode 5.3 or mode equation 3, this appeared on your calculator. What you will do is that you will insert these in order. هحطهم هنا بنفس الترتيب. إزاي؟ يلا مع بعضينا. First, press 6. أنا بشتغل أهو على الكالكوليتر، يا ريت تشتغلوا معايا. Then press equal. فهتطلع تحت ال A. Then press -5. And then press equal. إيه ده؟ -5. And then press equal. معلش هعملها من الأول. So 6 equals -5 equals, and then the C, -4 equals. You need to press equal 2 times. So you will get x1 equals 4/3. And then when you press equal again, you will get x2, which is equal to -12. هتقولوا لي ايه يا مس ده؟ احنا الاكزامبل اللي فات كان طالع لنا whole numbers، فكل اللي عملناه ان احنا غيرنا الساينز وحطيناها. طيب دلوقتي ايه الوضع؟ طلع لي fractions. What do you do if you get fractions from your calculators? Please pay super attention. تمام؟ If you get fractions from your calculators اهو مثلا x1 equals 4/3 و x2 equals -12. كده in all cases you must change the signs. In all cases you must change the sign. If your calculator produces a fraction, what you do is the denominator goes as the coefficient of x. الدينومينيتور هيجي على شمال الاكس كده فهتبقى 3x، والنيومينيتور هيطلع فوق. The numerator goes here. طبعا this fraction is positive, it changes into negative لان احنا اتفقنا كده we change sign. Again, what do we do if the calculator produces a fraction? مبدئيا we never change to decimal. We never put the fraction as is on the calculator. This fraction must be expanded. How? Take the denominator on the left-hand side of x as the coefficient. فدي هتبقى هنا عندي ايه؟ 2x. And then take the numerator هنا -1 هحطها فوق. لا سوري، يعني هنحط ال1 فوق. طبعا this fraction is negative, I change into positive. تمام؟ طبعا if you want to make sure that your answer is correct, you can expand 6x power 2 plus 3x minus 8x minus 4. You will definitely get the same answer that we got over here. Okay? Now, to continue, okay, to just give you some more ideas. So again, if your calculator gives a fraction, how do I insert the fraction on the calculator? The denominator goes to the left on the x. فدي هتبقى هنا 7x. The numerator goes here alone. Okay, so +4 changes into -4. طبعا ليه negative? Because the fraction is positive. Okay, طيب, let me just give you بقى two more ideas, تمام, that are very, very important. Okay? So actually what I was thinking is that I will just have this video only for factorization and then make another video for the simplifying of the algebraic fractions. لأنه في عندي حاجات مهمة محتاجة هنا إن أنا أقولها. Now let's assume the question says factorize. And then I get this example over here. X power 2 plus 10x plus 25. طبعا since now we're focused on the quadratic trinomial, on the calculator is already set on mode equation 3. The A is equal to 1, the B is equal to 10, and the C is equal to 25. So let's insert them on the calculator. 1 equals 10 equals 25. So you will notice that the calculator did not give x1 and x2 as these examples. The calculator just gave one value. ادتني x واحدة بس, which is -5. طيب هل ده معناه ان انا my factorization is one bracket؟ لا. ده معناه that my factorization is twins. And what do I mean by twins? يعني I will have two identical brackets. So -5, I will insert it in both brackets. طبعا زي ما اتفقنا يا جماعة, كده we change signs. And if you want to know why do we change signs, you can watch the video about quadratic equations. ف-5 هتدخل هنا as +5 وتدخل هنا كمان as +5. So again, if the calculator gives one item only, it means that you have two identical brackets. It has two identical brackets. كده I change the sign, بحطها مرتين. طبعا this could be written as x plus 5 power 2. So let's just summarize. لا actually أنا هكمل هنا في الفيديو ده لأنه خلاص مش ناقص كتير. So what did we discuss now? We discussed how to factorize using highest common factor, and then the dots, and then the quadratic trinomial with all its cases. Now, I'm actually going to refer to, هشوف كده في classified. Now we are going to discuss the DEF questions. What do I mean by DEF questions? DEF questions means double factorization questions. يعني إيه double factorization questions؟ يعني some questions I will be required to factorize twice. خلينا ناخد example على ال DF. مثلا يقول لي factorize completely. لا أنا غالبا هعمل فيديو تاني فعلا للsingle fraction, ده كده هيبقى طويل قوي. يقول لي factorize completely مثلا 12x power 2 minus 75. 12x power 2 minus 75. Now, how do I know that this is a double factorization question? I know that this is a double factorization question. Sometimes the examiner will be helpful and will add the word completely. بصوا يا جماعة, أول ما السؤال يقول لي factorize, whenever the question says factorize, you always think HCF. يعني أنا كده أهو في الامتحان, يعني let's assume إن أنا كده في الامتحان مبسوط قوي يعني وإن أنا بمتحن وعايش حياتي, وأنا دلوقتي بفكر أهو I am thinking. يعني زي ما اتفقنا البتاع ده بس بيهنج شوية لما بكتب عليه, معرفش ليه. أوكي, فأنا دلوقتي زي ما اتفقنا أنا I'm in an exam أهو, وأنا بفكر أهو. أول ما يقول لي factorize, automatically أول حاجة تيجي في بالي highest common factor. The first thing that you always think about is, can I take HCF? دي أول حاجة على طول أفكر فيها. So, going back to the question, هنا, can I take highest common factor? Yes, because 12 and 75, the highest common factor is 3. Okay, فأنا هشتغلها كأنها مسألة HCF عادية أهو، هشتغلها كأنها مسألة HCF. طبعا the highest common factor here is 3. Okay, 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then x power 2 remains as it is. 75 divided by 3 is 25. خليني بس أتأكد بالكالكوليتر عشان أنا أحيانا صراحة بقلق من المنتل سكيلز. أوكي أهو، دي هنا كده عندي 25. جميل. طيب أنا بقى بعد ما عملت ال HCF step، لأن أنا دي أول حاجة بفكر فيها، دايما عيني على الدرجة بتاعت السؤال. I always check the grade of the question. You will find that مثلا this question is graded out of 3 marks. So it's impossible that it has only one step. And then there's another indication over here, the word completely. The word completely means إنه there might be a chance of factorizing again. And as I always tell you, if you're ever in my classes in school, I always tell you what? تمام؟ اللي مش عاجبك خبيه. اللي مش عاجبك خبيه. يعني إيه اللي مش عاجبك خبيه؟ يعني let's pretend that this 3 does not exist. Let's pretend that this 3 does not exist. And let's look at this bracket. Can I factorize this bracket? Definitely. We just explained it. يبقى تاني ال 3 موجودة. احنا we are pretending ان هي مش موجودة، يعني احنا بس مخبينها. البراكت ده في حد ذاته dots. Difference of two squares. وتاني يا جماعة بأكد، علشان أشتغلها dots، علشان أشتغلها difference of two squares, I must have a different sign. All the items in the two terms, I must be able to take square root of. لو أنا مش هعرف أخد square root of any of the items that are written, يبقى this is not a dots question. فهنا yes I can. Square root 4, 2 and 2. X power 2, X and X. Root 25, 5 and 5. And as we said, when you factorize dots, the factorization are two brackets that are almost the same. طبعا you square root the first, هنا وهنا. You square root the second, هنا وهنا. 1 plus, 1 minus. So this is the dots factorization. But the question is this the final answer? No. When you write the final answer, you must make sure that you rewrite the 3 before your second factorization. You must make sure that you rewrite the 3 before your second factorization. So this is a DF question, a double factorization question. As you can see, we started off by the highest common factor, and then by looking at the bracket, I found that this bracket can be factorized again. So I factorized it using the dots procedure, and your final answer is 3 items. The 3, which is the result of the highest common factor, and the 2 brackets that we have over here. So this is the end of part 1, as I don't want the videos to be super long. And part 2 is going to be, how do I apply my factorization in solving these sort of questions اللي هم simplifying algebraic fractions. Thank you all for listening, and I'm going to see you in part 2. Bye.